So before this episode, this was the last time we had seen the Hound. Sandor Clegane was badly injured from his fight with Brienne of Tarth, but instead of killing him, Arya left him to die of his wounds. The return of Sandor Clegane, or the Hound, has been a long time fan theory and it finally turned out to be true. After Arya left him to die, the Hound was found by Septon brother Ray, who took him in to live in their little village. They are members of the Faith of the Seven, the same god that the sparrows over in King's Landing worship. The village was building a new sept to worship, and the Hound does seem a little reformed, even if it's just for one episode. Back in King's Landing, the High Sparrow pays a visit to Margaery, and she's still keeping up the act of being a changed woman, even reciting a verse from memory. But the High Sparrow sees right through her bullshit, and tries to get Margaery to convert her grandma, Olenna Tyrell. The next scene we see Margaery speaking with Olenna, but not in private as Septa Unella watches over them. Margaery tells Olenna to return to Highgarden for her own safety, and slips her a piece of paper. The piece of paper contained a drawing of a rose, the symbol of House Tyrell, signifying that Margaery is still true to her family and her house, that she has some sort of plan. Jon Snow, the wildlings, and Tormund are shown discussing whether or not they should help in taking back Winterfell. Tormund reminds them that Jon Snow saved all their asses, and that beating Ramsay is really the only hope of survival they have. My favorite part of the scene is when Woon gets up, and all he says is Snow, as a sign of his support, and then just walks away. So Cersei tries to make peace with Olenna, but that old woman holds grudges, and she still remembers how Cersei smirked at her when Margaery and Loras were being dragged away. Olenna says that she's leaving King's Landing to go back to Highgarden, and I half believe her. I think either she leaves King's Landing and returns sometime in the future, or when she's trying to leave, the High Sparrow catches her and arrests her. So Jaime and Bronn arrive at Riverrun right when Lame Lothar and Blackwalder are trying to use Edmure Tully as a hostage to get the Blackfish to surrender. But the Blackfish calls their bluff and just says, "Go on then, cut his throat," and just fucking walks away. Obviously they can't kill him as he's the only bargaining piece they have, and we learn just how badass the Blackfish is. Jaime Lannister then takes control of the siege and tells them to bathe and clothe Edmure, but Blackwalder tries to one-up Jaime by saying Edmure is a prisoner of House Frey and gets backhanded for his efforts. Not the smartest move to try and challenge Jaime, who's a Lannister, in front of all of his men. So after that, Jon, Sansa, and Davos arrive at Bear Island and almost get rejected by young Lady Mormont. But Sir Davos comes in and saves the day with his smooth talking. I really think Davos has a soft spot with young children, not in a weird way, but the kind where kids are able to trust him because he comes off, so authentic and trustworthy. But the only problem here was that Bear Island was only able to offer up 62 soldiers. You can just see the pain and disappointment in Jon Snow's eyes as he processes that number. In the next scene, Jaime meets with the Blackfish and it's clear there's no way he's going to surrender. The Blackfish is tough as nails, and he's not going to yield even if they kill Edmure, especially considering that he doesn't even like the guy very much. Jon and Sansa try and convince Robert Glover from House Glover to aid them in their plight, but since they've just taken back their castle from the Ironborn, the man was just not having it. Adding on to that, the Boltons helped them reclaim Deepwood Motte, and Robb Stark didn't help them at all. There's nothing that would have convinced him, not even Davos. So Yara is shown in Volantis relaxing and having a good time, while Theon is still extremely traumatized by what Ramsay did to him. And I mean, what a terrible place for Yara to take him to. The girls are all half naked and it's just an unnecessary reminder of how he's dickless. Yara even cracks a couple of jokes about his chopped off dick, which is pretty fucked up. I gotta say, I'm really starting to feel bad for Theon. The guy's been through some shit, and I would've ended it a long time ago. We also find out Yara is a lesbian, which wasn't too surprising considering the way she acts. And she tells Theon that he still has some reek inside of him, that he's still a broken man, and that she needs the real Theon to come back and get his shit together. It's a tall task to ask of him, but I bet Theon does come back stronger than ever, as we've already seen him make so much progress since his days as Reek. So Jon and Sansa know that they are heavily outnumbered by Ramsay's forces, and that there isn't enough time to get more men. In a last-ditch effort, Sansa writes a letter to Littlefinger asking him for assistance. Some guy on Reddit pulled off some fucking magic and made the text a whole lot easier to read. It says, "Now you have a chance to fulfill your promise. Knights of the Vale are under your command. Ride north for Winterfell. Lend us your aid, and I shall see that you are the true to your word. It's important to note that the Vale has a very large army, possibly larger than Ramsay's army alone. I'm almost certain they will be there during the Bastard Bowl, and will play a big role in the battle. So next we see Septon Ray give his life story and explain why he converted himself into a member of the Faith of the Seven, but his talk is cut short by 3 members of the Brotherhood Without Banners. Remember Lord Beric Dondarrion and Thoros, the Red Priest who brought him back to life? They are members of the Brotherhood Without Banners, although it seems as if their intentions have changed since we last met them. Quickly jumping back to Arya, she arranges for a merchant to take her to Westeros, but then gets ambushed by the waif, pretending to be an old woman. That was so obvious, and Arya is pretty stupid for not being more on guard, knowing that her enemies can take on many different faces. She survives, albeit very hurt, and their battle will continue on in episode 8 as the preview showed. Finally, the Hound returns to camp after hearing screaming, only to find everybody dead and Brother Ray hanging from the sept. As I said earlier, it's surprising the Brotherhood Without Banners would massacre a whole village for apparently no reason. The whole idea behind their group was to protect the commoners from the likes of kings and queens, so it seems as if the group has devolved to evil intentions. Maybe it's due to religious tensions between the Lord of the Light and the Faith of the Seven, but who really cares? I'm just looking forward to the Hound finally making a return to his old self. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Please click like if you enjoyed it. And I'm going to be putting out Game of Thrones content every week, probably a couple videos until the season's done. And then I'll be putting out more content on stuff that interests me. So if that sounds like something up your alley, please subscribe to my channel. I need to eat. No, I'm just kidding. This isn't my job, but yeah, subscribe please. Thanks. Bye.